All right, so I want to talk through the lower time frame entry here. So it's currently Tuesday morning at 7:27. So we just began the New York session, and I've just taken a lower time frame entry. So I think now is a good time to walk it through. So basically, the lower time frame entry is we want price to extend to an area, and then have a double break of structure. So ideally a type 3 shift, so break the high, then break the low. And then what we ideally want is for price to consolidate a little bit and then break structure again. So this is what it looks like in an ideal world. So we can see here my entry on NU. So we broke the high, broke the low, had this creeping trend back, and then we broke that low. I was slow off the mark with this one. So this would have been the ideal entry here. And as we can see, this actually happened at the beginning of a new 15-minute candle. So we're looking at the time, 7:15, creeping trend, boom. Hit that every day of the week if the DXY is doing the same. And we can check the DXY. And of course, this is only if it is a pair that goes inverse to the DXY. So we have news in 1 minute or 50 seconds now. It's just orange news. So what I'm anticipating or hoping for is that the news is going to be the stop hunt to take price down, and then that will be the stop hunt, and then price can then potentially continue to the upside. So more dollar downside. But yeah, we can see then just before news that we came down into the low, broke structure once, and then broke structure twice. So I was waiting for the dollar confirmation. That's why I was a little bit slow here. So waiting for the DXY. So without the DXY confluence, this would have been the perfect entry. Waiting for that extra confirmation. As you can see then, I got a worse fill, but waiting for more confirmation. Okay, so news just kicking off now. See if this can be the stop hunt. But yeah, that's the lower time from entry explained. So we want, just to summarize, so price to extend to an area, type 3 shift, break the high, break the low, ideally have a couple of candles where it consolidates, and then break structure again. At this point, this is where we enter. Stop, oopsie daisies, stop above the high and giving a couple of pips. There we go. And then take profit. I measure the last push up. So I measure from here to here, extend it out, and then either take 1, 2, or 300% expansions. Lovely. Cool. Let's see what this trade does. See if dollar breaks this low. But yeah, that's the lower time frame entry explained. Okay, so you can see it came up, first break of structure, pull back, second break of structure. As soon as the DXY confluence here, as soon as we broke structure for the second time, so first break of structure here, pull back, second break of structure on minute 20, as we can see on both screens, that's when I entered. News, we went sideways for a little bit, and now we are having the push down that I was hoping for. And now I've just taken another entry on EuroCAD. So again, the same thesis. So we extend to an area, create space, break the high, break a low, creeping trend back, and then break structure again. So now I'm going to measure the last push up. So from here to here, extend that out, and then see which areas of liquidity it lines up with. So immediately I'm drawn to this one here. So now I'll just zoom out a little bit and see. Because we are actually, this is what I was hoping to see before the session happens. And that's what we got here. So I think we've just taken out the high of the day. So what we can do then is, instead of just measuring the 1 minute last push up, we can actually measure the 5 minute last push up, if that makes sense. So because we're at a higher time frame area, and what I mean by that is we're at the EMAs, so we're at support resistance. This is a daily support resistance level. Level 1, we break structure and we pull back to the EMA here. So now we're having a ID50. bouncing off of the 50 EMA. So I can measure the last push up, which would be this here. There we go. That's the last push up, and now we see which liquidities it ties in with. So the low of the day is a potential target because it lines up with the 200% expansion. That would be a 5-to-1 if we come down to there. So right now I just have my stop in place and I haven't placed a take profit target yet. Let's check how NU is doing. Okay, yeah, nice. So we've just completed 100% expansion. See if we can get that 200% now. So yeah, in terms of take profits, this is the first session breaker structure. So we have, second session breaker structure. So we have the initial first breaker structure and then the second breaker structure here. So the more breaker structure we have before we enter, the higher the probability, you could say, because they say the second mouse gets the cheese. So this is the first mouse, he gets taken out, and then the second mouse. So let's see, I'll monitor the DXY and see how it's moving. But for now, I would love to see at least these lows down here, this space here, get taken. Lovely stuff. I'll check back in. So just continuing the lower time frame entry. So we can see here we had extended to an area. First breakout structure, second breakout structure, DXY confluence, we hit that. We then came down to the 200% expansion, closed my position, and now we can see we have come in to beginning of equities here, and we have the first breakout structure followed by second breakout structure. So this is the same setup but in the opposite direction. So we look at the DXY. DXY comes up as the first breakout structure and the second breakout structure. So as soon as we got that, I hit this trade in the opposite direction. Again, this is just lower time frame entries. It's not something that we want to be loading the boat on, but this is how we enter the market on the lower time frames. So then we measure the last move down. So I'll take this tool and I'll measure from the low to the high. And I'll just make sure it's my expansion. There we go. And then we just see which liquidity does this line up with. So we can see this is 100% expansion, 200%, 300% expansions. So we can come out and see, okay, the 200% expansion lines up with the high of the session. That would be a solid first target. And the 300% actually lines up with the high of the day. So this is where I will judge if we actually do get this push. This is where I will judge the first position. This is the initial potential area of first failure. So we'll see how we're trading, if we're coming to the beginning of a new 15-minute candle, etc. Then on EuroCAD, so this is where we closed out once we hit the 100% expansion, and now we're looking for a re-entry short. So again, I'm going to be waiting for the new 15-minute candle, seeing if we get that fractal shift again. How's the DXY doing? So we want to look at, okay, so where are we in the range? And we can see that we're in the upper half of the range. So from here to here, this is the range. So in between, we're trading in between this high and this low. And we can extend that out here. So because we're in the upper half, we're looking to take shorts, or shorts are more optimal anyways. So then we initially come high. So this is where we took NZD short, and then we've come up and then we failed. So the first breaker structure, second breaker structure. NZD USD, because it's inverse to the dollar, we'll be doing the opposite to that. So we are here. Here's our range. So between this high and this low, here's the range extremes, here and here. So once we come up into the range extreme, had our lower time frame entry, took this trade short. our bias is actually long. So we want to be waiting for a pullback, because if we're buying, we want to be buying low. If we're selling, we want to be selling high. So if we look at this range here, we come to the extreme, we're in the discounted area, so we take our short. That is because we're using this as the reference point. Our actual bias is long, so what we can do is measure the new range. So this is actually the new range that we're playing with. So we create this range because we put in a high and then we put in a low. So we fail here, we have a double break of structure, break structure once, break structure twice. This is now confirmed high. And then here we break structure once, break structure twice. This is now confirmed low. So this now becomes our new range. So now because we are buying, we're going to be buying in the discount, and we can see where, yes, we're buying in the green. So lower time frame entry, price extends to an area, double break of structure. So yeah, so I'm in this long now. So let's see how we react to this area here initially, and then potentially take it to the high of the day. Okay, so we can see on the higher time frame, it's a lower time frame entry. We're actually doing an ID50. So yes, I will most definitely look to try and hold this trade for longer. Okay, so just rounding off this. So we had the trade, initial short down to this area here, which we wanted to then, so we traded the stop hunt into the long. So as the New York session finished, closed out here, and we can just cover that. So we have initial break of structure here, secondary break of structure here. This trade here, initial break of structure, second break of structure. So both trades closed out now. So time to punch them into the journal. So we can see here this was 2.5%. It was $1,347. Lovely. And now I need to go through and fill in these ones as well, the remainder ones. So always recording the data before we leave our desk. Cool. That is, yeah, the lower time frame entries rounded off. Price extends to an area, has a double break of structure. Again, this is the lower time frame entry, so we're combining this with the higher time frame thesis always. So again, we had our direction, we were above the EMAs, so we're looking to buy. Then simply looking down and seeing what happens in the session. Cool. Nice one, guys. That is the lower time frame entries.